You know, when he goes to a foreign country, all the little kids see him from far away and say, "Here comes Professor Gadget." They all know Jim George in Europe, Asia, Africa. Even the penguins in Antarctica are familiar with Jim George.
Read your Canucks off.
Good morning, Jim. How you doing?
Fine, thank you. Fine, thank you.
Yeah, your fame precedes you.
So Robin's been reading the history of the apple.
The apple. You brought us some apple books.
Isn't that something?
Explain what an apple book is.
Well, I was going to let Robin. She just read it, I think.
Oh, Robin, explain what the apple book is.
Yeah, this is so neat. It's made from apple peels. It's made in Italy. And it's all from the residuals and the peels of the fallen apples. So this is really, really such an interesting thing. I mean, it smells all over the place. The pages, it smells like real apples, and it's wonderful. The design is great. Yeah. I love it. I think it's absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, neat.
Yeah, when I saw it, I said, I've just got to bring.
Where'd you see this?
This was at the trade show I was at, which was called Technology Summit.
So you're operating on no sleep at all right now.
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
And where was the? It
was in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Oh, Raleigh, that's right. Yep. Oh my gosh, so you haven't slept at all night?
Well, I actually did. I went home. Got home about 2:30, and at 3 o'clock I laid down. But at 5:30, my internal clock said, "What are you doing laying down?" So I got up. So had a couple hours.
Are you an early riser by nature?
Yeah? By nature, yeah. By military.
That's where we got started.
Oh yeah, no, you get up very early in the morning, so it's just an inherent thing. But it was an interesting book. As soon as I saw it, it's a nice notebook. So I know you guys like to make notes. You like to draw.
Yeah, this is wonderful.
It's something you can keep with you. It's got the little band that allows you to open up to the page you were last at. And got another little band that allows you to mark a page. So.
And a pen holder.
So did you, when
colorful. I love
you at the conference? Did you? Was it about gadgets and that kind of thing?
No, it was actually about television broadcasters and how they're being forced to relocate again.
What do you mean? Relocate
and to combine. So the FCC over the years there were 83 channels of UHF, and the FCC decided that. They needed to force broadcasters away from all but 69 channels of UHF. So they made broadcasters move, and then they made a move again many years later. So they had to buy retransmitters and repeaters or transmitters, and they kept moving them. So now I don't even know what it is. I want to say it's probably 39 channels from. In the UHF frequency that's available. So the FCC, in its wisdom, every time they make a broadcaster leave that 6 megahertz of frequency, they sell that to the Verizons of this world and to the telephone companies and to first responders, because those frequencies up in the 700 megahertz, 500 megahertz range, where those UHF frequencies are very good at penetrating walls and such, so that it's a good emergency, frequency. Well, now it's become very profitable. So when they make a television station move, and let's assume it costs the television station because they're not necessarily in a grade A contour like New York City or something. They're in Hoboken or someplace. The FCC sells those frequencies for millions and millions, and like $500 million for one frequency.
Wow.
Or even more. And now they want them to move again, and not only move again, but to joint usage. They want, if you own channel 16, let's say if that's your frequency is 16, which is around 400 megahertz or less in the UHF band, they want 4 or 5 channels to use that same frequency. And the way they do it is something called ATS 3.0. And it's a new way of transcoding of channel and crunching it, making it very small, but it allows you to do so many things with it. So the broadcasters are happy with ATS 3. but they're just unhappy about the fact that they have to move their frequency. So the whole convention was based on, what do we do now? We're going to have to move. I mean, the federal government's not going to sit there and just let us keep these channels. The only way they could have stopped it in the past is if they'd come up with something creative on, oh, we can do this with television, we can do that. But since we didn't do that, since the broadcasters didn't do that, now they're saying, no, you just go ahead and move, because now we're giving you so much more capability in that 6 megahertz band. You could do 20 channels and not just one, the way it's compressed. So that's what it was at that. And then, of course, the technologists were there, the people like Adobe, Panasonic, JVC, talking about 4K and 8K. And most broadcasters had agreed at the convention they will skip 4K. Since 8K is a reality in Korea and soon to be a reality in Japan, they'll just wait till 8K becomes not so pricey and go straight to 8K. So
wow.
If high def is 1K, which it is, 1,080, let's say, pixels, then 4K is 4,000, 3,000 more than the 1,000. And so 8,000 is, going to be a huge advantage. And going to 8K allows them to even shrink their picture more as far as bandwidth is concerned. So everybody's waiting. The broadcasters are in an uproar, but they're trying to consolidate. And
this is way over my head. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to talk about vibrators I can call and get pizza.
When I saw that, I want one that calls a friend.
So
hello.
I have a question about selling wavelengths. Okay.
Yes.
When I receive a wavelength on my TV,
yes,
the signal I'm receiving is being transmitted or created by another device at the other end, right?
Yes, the transmitter.
Okay. So since we create them with a machine, with a transmitter, and we receive them with a receiver, another machine or whatever,
right?
How is it possible that the FCC even owns them? I don't even understand that. How is it that they own the wavelength?
Well, they've been mandated by you and me, the American public, and Congress, to oversee all frequencies, all transmissions, all receptions. When you have a cell phone, when you first had a cell phone, it would say on their FCC model so-and-so. Everything was tested by the FCC. Cell phones are what they call intrinsically safe, although there's been a lot of talk about if you hold a cell phone close to your ear for hours on end, what happens to that?
I carry it in my pocket. Is that okay?
Right. Yeah, no, it's just burned the body, that's all. At least it's not the ear,
Are you ready for a phone call?
Oh, yeah.
Good morning. Thank you for calling. You're on the air with Jim George.
Good morning, Jim. This is Sonny calling. I don't pretend to even know as much as your daughter on any of this stuff, but from my past experience, when they keep messing with the bandwidths and things like that, the equipment that you have has to be tuned specifically or tuned to a finer frequency or app or whatever you want to call it. The app.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, with your equipment, say anybody here, say you have low voltage, wouldn't that change the frequency and thus change your reception of the various new government requirements? Everything is getting shrunk down. In other words, you fit a bunch of frequencies on one bandwidth, and then just by making the frequency smaller, you can get more on that bandwidth. And I'll hang up and listen to what your thought is there. I mean, this is getting to a point where if it isn't tuned or you don't have 120 volts, you have 115 volts, you're not going to be on the right frequency. I'll hang up and listen.
Ah, okay. So it started to go, but we got that. Okay.
Yeah. Well, the tuners, one of the doomsdayer guys, on the moderator on the convention floor, said you got to understand this is 5 years out. This isn't something that's going to happen tomorrow. JVC was there, Samsung was there. There are no TVs yet made with 4K tuners for off the air or 8K tuners off the air built into them with the right format. You could probably buy a TV set right now that says 4K compatible or if there's a 4K picture, it could receive it. But it's receiving it at today's standards, and those standards are going to change. They have to change in order to allow, as Sonny is saying, more people on the same frequency, and they'll share the frequency. So in 6 megahertz wide, instead of having one main channel and maybe 2 or 3 sub carriers, you could have 20 and 30 channels on the same, amount of bandwidth. So it's all digital. It's all zeros and ones now. It's all the speed of light. I'm telling you, things are really moving. It makes people like me want to retire. It's just you cannot understand it all. You just cannot understand. It's a newer generation technology. Yeah. It really is.
It is amazing, the changes in everything.
And you remember the old transmitters, the Klystron tubes, the huge rooms, the heat.
The only thing I can relate to when you say that is the transmitter we used to have at WTMC.
Yeah.
It was about the size of bigger than the wall behind me.
Yeah.
Which is about, 10 by 14 maybe, the original one, right? And I know had gigantic tubes in it, and very expensive and hard to find, especially the older it got, the harder it was to find those tubes.
Well, I'll be going to the National Association of Broadcasters convention in July in Las Vegas, and that's where all the manufacturers display their stuff. But the transmitters now are only 1 3/4 inch high.
Oh my God!
Wow!
So
that is
still 19 inches wide to fit in a rack,
yeah.
But only 1 3/4 inches high.
And that's a transmitter of how much power?
Oh, 100,000 watts, easy.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Wow!
Because the wattage is determined differently.
Okay, but let me ask you this: the tower itself is still not obsolete, right? You still have to have the tower, right?
Well, and there again, I just got an email, not an email. I got a certified letter from Channel 45 down in Orlando that they are coming off of a tower where they rent space and moving over to a building parapet wall. In other words, they're going to mount their antennas on a wall of a building, high up.
Really?
Because they don't need that height anymore. You can go just as far with the new technology. So it not only has the wattage to push out, but it has the new waveform to be received differently. And so they're taking the advantage now. They're moving now so that when the time comes, they can save like $2,000 a month rent on a tower.
Yeah.
And so more and more people are going to be using the same tower. One of the things they were talking about was, what do we do if the power goes off at that location and there's 6 of us on there? And how do we know who caused it? And what technician rolls to fix it? And,
right.
But they're 5 years out. They said, well, we have 5 years to figure it out. But in 5 years, it will be a reality. Everything will have to be what it is now.
Wow.
It's really amazing, because I know when Church Street Station was in its heyday, like 20 years ago, we used to go to Orlando to the Sharper Image down there. Mm-hmm. And then we saw Bose came out with this radio, but they had 2 tiny, tiny speakers, maybe 3 inches by 3 inches.
Right.
And the sound that came out of them was amazing.
Yes.
And at that time, the speakers were really huge in your home.
Exactly. Yeah, the new technology speakers, I was hoping they would have some small radios there, but the guy said at NAB, JVC is going to come out with AM/FM radio now. It's going to be like an anniversary one. In other words, they're not going to be, found at Walmart and such. They're going to be more or less broadcasters will each have one on their desk. Maybe even radio stations might get an email saying if you'd like to have a keepsake of it. But these radios are supposed to be the most sensitive ever made as far as all band reception and TV reception. So you could listen to the audio of any TV channel because it's a radio.
Uh-huh.
But with the plug-in in the back, like you would a laptop, you get the video.
That's awesome.
So it picks.
Really, right to the computer? You plug it.
Well, it's a radio,
computer?
so just imagine a radio that you could carry with you, maybe 8.5 by 11, maybe 2 inches thick.
Oh.
And it has all the bands. It's all LED display. You just push the button for the frequency and such. You can save the channel, and like if you want to say WOCA for the audio, for the radio channel, but all the different channels. And then it has a port in the back that you could plug in a monitor. and watch the TV. So if you were in a hotel room and you had a little monitor, so they're going to try and make it in a case where it opens up like a book. So, and they come apart. So the radio you can take anywhere you want to, and then when you want the video one, you snap it together and take it.
Nice.
Unbelievable.
I remember
cool.
as a kid going to Radio Shack looking at a radio, and the salesman I saw one for $14, and he was trying to sell me one I think it was like $100 or more. And one of the sales things was he said, "This radio has all the bands." And I said, "Well, I only care about the Beatles."
Yeah, right.
Hey, did you when we see a story about receivers getting signals from outer space? Now, the wavelength they're picking up, how do we know what kind of like if we're looking for alien life, just to try to talk about this, how do we know what wavelength they might be using? There's no way. What do we just have a gigantic thing that keeps changing channels?
So it's an all-band receiver. Basically, it's a scanner. It's scanning very quickly. I mean, you can't even imagine how fast it scans from, let's say, 0 to 100 gig. You know, it's just really scanning. And when it comes across any kind of any level above a noise floor, some kind of an anomaly, a beep, a click, whatever, you know, then it has one of its tuners in there that locks in on that. Now, it's got other tuners that are still scanning, so it's not, you know, stopped by any means. And then if it's just a random noise that happened once and never happened again, it picked up some who knows what out there. And,
Right.
But, you know, we haven't found any, you know, intelligent life on other planets, and even less on our own.
Did you hear the signal they got from the beginning of the universe?
I love that. I love your quote.
Did you hear the signal they got from the beginning of the universe?
No.
Now, they say that the signal, I'm not making this up, they say the signal, I don't know how they know, but they say it's been traveling through the universe since the very beginning of time, and I have the sound. Do you want to hear it?
Oh, here
you
we go.
have to listen really carefully because you can hear what interested them. It's to me it sounds like static, but apparently you can hear something in here. Maybe with your trained ears. Is this it? Is this it? Here it is. See, I can't hear anything.
A road trip.
This is WOCA, the source.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard something.
Yeah.
So when you go to this conference, you have a camaraderie with everybody else that's there. Most everybody is familiar with everybody else, so you're able to
Somewhat.
exchange ideas and.
Yeah, at least we're on the same, you know,
Wavelength.
technology plane, wavelength. But no, I didn't know a single person at this convention, but they have minglers. So, you know, the first night was like a little wine and cheese. Everybody wined, you know.
Yeah.
And then the next day was presentations by some of the manufacturers that were there. And then the actual moderators and the actual, you know, summit, you know, what are we going to do about this and how does this work and such. And but you know, but you learn that, you know, you sit with people and you talk. I met some very interesting people.
And I'm sure they said the same about you. I mean, it's amazing. You can talk over our heads so easily.
Were you one of the speakers?
No,
This time?
No, not this time. No.
All right, let's go to the phone. Thank you for calling and for waiting. You're on the air with Jim George.
Yes, good morning. Say that outer space noise sounded almost like you were down at the railroad station watching a freight train go by.
I did, yes.
Say, Mr. George, is there any way that I can watch where I used to live up in Wisconsin, of my local TV stations by using a special receiver or something on my TV down here?
Well, you don't need to have a special receiver. You have your computer. So let's assume the call lines are WRMB or something like that, whatever they are. You just type that in there, usually .com, or you can go to Google and do a search. You will find that station. It'll say, listen now. You click on it, and there you go. How does
Yeah, but
WOC...
somehow you can get it on your TV. I know my wife gets it on the computer.
Well, no, you can do it to your TV because you can sling it. You could get it on your, you could use your cell phone, for instance, the app, and, you know, get an app for it. The radio station will actually say, download our app. You download the app, and then when you download the app, you sling it to your TV, and you watch it on your TV.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, very good. Well, thank you very much. I'll have to try that.
Yeah, especially during the newscast. If you like the local news of what's going on, just watch it during that time.
Yeah, I always pray that I've got family, and everything up there from the Milwaukee area, and I always like to see what's going on news-wise and weather-wise and whatnot, and kind of keep up with things that way. So thank you very much. I'm going to try that.
You're welcome. Now, if you have an older computer, also, it depends, you don't need to do with a new computer. You could go right ahead and take the HDMI cable out and put it right straight to your TV. In other words, just keep a computer right there, and all you do is change the inputs.
Oh.
Input 1 is off the air, input 2, let's say it's cable, input 3 is the computer, and then the computer will, show the streaming, the television station you want. Mm-hmm. Simple as that.
So I found an app. Let me see where to go here. I'm new to this whole app thing. It's called.
He's got a lot of apps.
I'm an app guy.
Oh yeah.
It's called
loaded.
It's called TV app. TV app.
There you go.
And it says it has channels from all over the country.
Yeah. And the other day I called. My Verizon guy, Matt, Wilkerson, I think his name is, and I said, I heard, that the cell phones can be turned into radio receivers, but that Verizon hasn't turned that function on recently or in our local area. And he said, well, let me check. He called me back not even 5 minutes later. So, oh, no, it's on your cell phone.
Really?
All you have to do is go here, go there, click that. So I did it. Ta-da. There it was.
Nice.
And then it says,
You're into the ta-da thing.
plug in your earphones, and your earphone wire is the antenna.
Oh, my.
And now you don't have to use any of your data. You don't use your data plan. The cell phone is a radio.
Really?
That is neat.
So you just
gosh.
so you can use the earpiece if you want to, or just throw it over your shoulder, or roll it up in your pocket, and that's your antenna.
Isn't that
And now you're listening to WOCA walking around.
Yeah.
Done.
But if your earplug is plugged in, doesn't that turn off the speaker? You have to have it in your ears.
Well, I don't know which one you might have. Some of them do.
Okay.
I know that my wife has the option with her cell phone that she can have the earplug and local sound, and it comes with a two-way splitter, so you can share earbuds.
Oh, isn't that
So you
nice?
can plug it in, and then you can have one earpiece.
I saw a movie like that the other
Yeah.
day.
Did you?
Yeah, we did. That was pretty neat.
Hey,
I forget the name
you
of it.
gave us 2 books that smell like apples, and every time out of my peripheral, I see Robin sniffing her book.
I know. I think it's wonderful.
It looks
I
like
love
she's
this
looks like
book.
she's kissing her book. It looks like my beautiful, beautiful book.
Well, I gave one to my grandson, and I said, no, and he was taking a bite out of it. He was trying to see how it tasted. It smells like an apple, doesn't it?
I wonder if it does.
It's
Macintosh apples, actually.
It does. It smells great.
So I said, and I don't know how long the smell will last, but since it's made out of the peel itself, it's liable to last a very long time.
Yeah.
It
that
is. It's
amazing.
a nice looking book. Very appealing.
Yep, there it is. Appeal now.
We had a news story this morning about the Light phone, too. I guess they're trying to make it now where the phone doesn't have all those whistles and bells, where you can store 9 phone numbers in it, and you can just call people, and you don't have to worry about being interrupted by texts and things.
Oh, that's good. You're going backward in technology. I love it.
Right.
Make it simple, folks. Make it simple.
You know what? I always wish we'd go back to the clarity of the old phone. The old phone sounded perfect. I never had people cutting out on me when I was a kid. Right? Did you? Somebody calls you on the phone. You heard them perfectly. They can call from anywhere. Just cost you a fortune. That's all.
Yeah.
Well, we're really glad that you're back and safe.
I am
and
too. I got a
sound.
couple of service calls I've got to perform this morning. We had a.
Got to give yourself a break. You got to take a
Yeah.
nap.
I am going to sleep well tonight. I can guarantee you. I drove in last night from Raleigh, and rain. I was trying to tell Larry earlier, they kept announcing on the emergency alert station that severe weather alert. I mean, winds 60, 70 mile an hour winds. And believe me, I was in the middle of it, trying to drive back, blinding rain. People were pulled over on the side of the road. I just, lowered my speed and kept plugging. And luckily, about an hour, I got through one squall and said, oh, good, I'm out of it. And then here comes another one. So,
Oh, my.
North Carolina, it never stopped raining in North Carolina or South Carolina all day yesterday. Never
Oh,
stopped.
my.
Looks like it's pouring in Times Square too. I got the Times Square.
Oh, there you go.
Live
Right
cam on my
Times Square,
phone.
downtown.
But not here. We've got
here.
sunshine.
Beautiful here
So when's First Friday?
tonight.
Tonight. Tonight is Friday.
You'll
No
be
rain.
sleeping. You won't be
Oh,
out.
darn,
I won't
yeah.
see you tonight. You'll still be in that chocolate shop
That's
somewhere.
right. I'll come out of it. I didn't see you go in.
Exactly.
I never did see you come. Thank you, Jim. Always good to see you. I'm glad you're safe.
Thank you.
We'll be
Glad to
right back.
Fox News Radio, I'm Chris Foster. President Trump tweets, "If you don't have steel, you don't have a country." He's following up on his announcement of new tariffs being imposed on imported steel and aluminum.
The president tweeted, "When we are down $100 billion with a certain country and they get cute, don't trade anymore. We win big." The president believes tariffs will protect American jobs, but the announcement is sparking concerns about a trade war. Republican Senator Orrin Hatch says tariffs will come back to bite the American people.
Fox's Rachel Sutherland. Heavy wind and rains hitting the northeast coast today with flooding possible.
This storm is going to kind of park itself along the coast, and this is a very powerful system with hurricane force winds possible, 70, 80 mile per hour winds along the coast. Widespread power outages are possible and flooding concern, especially along the coast in areas that are vulnerable to storm surge.
Fox meteorologist Janice Dean. Fox News. We report, you decide.
Napa Know-How.
Hey, I'm Chase Elliott, driver of the number 9 Napa Chevy. Here to tell you that when you spend $25 at Napa this month, you'll get a free number 9 Napa racing cap. So whether you're a fan of drivers with fast cars or just a fan of keeping the sun out of your eyes, you'll get a free number 9 racing cap just for spending $25 at Napa. Quality parts, helpful people. That's Napa Know-How.
Napa Know-How.
At participating Napa Auto Parts stores while supplies last. Offer expires 3/31/18.
When hiring, you don't have time to waste. You need to get to a short list of qualified candidates fast. That's why you need Indeed.com. Daryl is hired with Indeed.
Using the site saves me a lot of time. It makes my job so much easier.
Post a job in minutes. Set up screener questions. Then zero in on qualified candidates using an intuitive dashboard. Your time is precious. Let Indeed help you get to your short list of qualified candidates. Post a job at Indeed.com/hire. Search for greatness. Search Indeed.
Here are today's headlines from the source WOCA. The battle over a school safety bill in the Florida legislature is getting so bad that Governor Rick Scott visited the House and Senate yesterday to try to get things moving.
The governor is trying to convince state lawmakers to approve a school safety bill in the aftermath of the Parkland massacre. But Rick Scott does not support their idea to designate some teachers as marshals so they can carry guns on campus.
I want to make sure we have significant law enforcement presence at every school. I want to make sure we harden our schools. But I don't support arming teachers.
When lawmakers announced their school safety plan last week, they thought it would be done as early as today. But floor debate will not begin until next week, and there's no guarantee they'll pass anything before the end of the session next Friday. Rick Flagg, Tallahassee.
Russian President Vladimir Putin yesterday used a concept video of unlimited range nuclear warheads apparently raining down on Florida, President Donald Trump's home away from home, to tout his country's new firepower. Putin boasted about the Kremlin's resurgent military might during his annual address to his nation's parliament, hyping weaponry that he said would render NATO defenses completely useless. He drew repeated applause with animation-backed claims of nuclear-capable weapons that elude air defense systems and invincible missiles that travel at hypersonic speed to drive home his point. Putin spoke as a video showed multiple nuclear warheads streaking through space before showering down on a Google Earth photo of the state of Florida. In Washington, the U.S. Senate has passed a resolution condemning what it calls the senseless attack at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland and honoring the memory of the victims that were killed. The resolution was sponsored by Senator Marco Rubio, who said the massacre could have been prevented.
People saw something, and people said something. And yet, somehow, this deranged and violent individual was able to pass a background check and purchase not one, but 10 separate firearms.
Rubio is calling for increased background checks and said security in schools needs to be enhanced. The question of what the Pulse nightclub shooter's widow knew before that fateful night will soon be answered by jurors. Jury selection began yesterday in Orlando, where Noor Salman is accused of helping her husband plan the horrific massacre at the gay nightclub in June 2016. 10 potential jurors were questioned and 4 were excused. The judge expects to interview another 14 potential jurors today. Jury selection could take more than a week. Marion County officials are warning residents to take precaution after raccoons in the area have tested positive for rabies. The Florida Department of Health says a raccoon tested positive for rabies on February 25th. The department cautioned residents in the North Lake area to stay aware that rabies are active in the area, especially for residents who live east of County Road 314A, south of State Road 40, north of Southeast 27th Place Road, and west of Southeast 172nd Terrace. Domestic animals that are not vaccinated are at risk, according to health officials. And in Volusia County, 7 raccoons showed signs and symptoms of distemper. Officials in that county say raccoons are susceptible to canine and feline distemper, which can be deadly to an unvaccinated pet. Residents are encouraged to report sick raccoons in Marion County to the Marion County Animal Services at 671-8727. Yesterday, NASA launched a powerful next-generation weather satellite into space on its Atlas V rocket.
And liftoff of the Atlas V and NOAA's GOES, a highly sophisticated weather-watching eye in the sky.
The launch happened yesterday evening at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's GOES weather satellite will provide forecasters with high-definition data from almost the entire Western Hemisphere. A Florida bill to assist first responders suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder has found new life in the aftermath of the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School shooting. At least 3 first responders to the 2016 Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando, which killed 49 people, have publicly disclosed that they have a PTSD diagnosis, and advocates have been trying to expand workers' compensation coverage in Florida since then. A bill to address that failed in Florida's Republican-dominated legislature last year, and the similar measures prospects were uncertain this year. On Monday, the measure unanimously cleared its final committee hearing in the Florida House, the last step before a floor vote. Yesterday, it passed its final Senate committee. Travel experts are carefully watching for a potential dip in the state's tourism industry after calls for spring break tourists to boycott Florida. 17-year-old David Hogg, a survivor of the Parkland shooting, is calling on college students across the country to boycott Florida as a spring break destination in an attempt to force the hand of legislators to enact tougher gun control laws. He said in his tweet, quote, "Let's make a deal to not come to Florida for spring break unless gun legislation is passed. These politicians won't listen to us, so maybe they'll listen to the billion-dollar tourism industry in Florida," unquote. Hogg posted that on his Twitter account, which now has nearly 400,000 followers. The tweet itself has garnered 170,000 likes. He later followed the tweet with another one, suggesting that spring breakers spend their money in Puerto Rico instead of Florida. March is National Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. Colorectal cancer is one of the most preventable cancers, according to Jacksonville gastroenterologist Dr. Jose Nieto.
If you detect polyps, it's a 100% chance of survival. If you even detect it extremely early, like a stage 1, you're looking at a 90+% chance of survival from colon cancer.
Florida ranks 19th in colorectal cancer screening in the United States. Average risk individuals should begin to be screened at the age of 50. African Americans at a higher risk should start at 45 years old. When Adventure Island Water Park opens for the season a week from today, it'll have a whole new ride for thrill seekers. The Busch Gardens sister park unveiled a first look at the new drop slide called Vantage Point. Vantage Point has 2 spiraling tube slides at the top of a 70-foot tower. The 2 slides feature drop floor skyboxes, which send guests down a 425-foot-long slide pushed along by more than 1,000 gallons a minute of water, according to park officials. Vantage Point will be located next to Colossal Curl, another popular thrill ride. The launch for the new drop slide is from the same tower used for Colossal Curl. And finally, don't forget, tomorrow, March 3rd, is the Strawberry Festival here in Ocala and Marion County. It'll be at the McPherson Government Complex, and it's free. Have fun. We'll see you there. And those are the headlines from The Source, WOCA 96.3 FM and 13.7.